Welcome back to the One Day at a Time Gambling Addiction Podcast. I'm your host, Rob One Day at a Time, and today I want to talk about something that I really struggled with when I quit gambling, and that was trying to figure out who I am without gambling. So, in my eyes, the hardest part about quitting an addiction is redefining yourself without the thing that was taking up the majority of your time when you were doing it. So, for me, going from gambling for 8 to 10 hours a day to not having anything to do really in that time period was very challenging. Even if I had a job or I was at school, I was more focused on gambling. And that, of course, led to me having a terrible time in college and a tough time with my job when I first started. But getting through that, what I found to be the most challenging was just finding what to do with my thoughts and what to do in my free time. So I wanted to take some time to make an episode of this podcast that would help to educate you on what you can do when you first quit gambling, if that's something you decide that you need to or want to do. So when I first stopped gambling, I had nothing to do. And the reason that I didn't have anything to do was because, when you gamble, all you really think about is what's the next game? What's the next bet I can make? What are the odds on this? What are the odds on that? When's the next time I can go to the casino? When's the next time I can play blackjack? And, a lot of the times the answer was immediate because, you have your phone and you can go online and play. So really, you could constantly stimulate yourself and constantly be challenging yourself by trying to win a bet. You can get into this competitive mindset where you are playing and playing, really thinking like, oh, I'm bound to win, I got to keep playing, and then the day flashes by and you've wasted 8 hours gambling. So when that's gone, what can you do? Well, for me, what I immediately started doing was, and it's corny, I guess, but getting into better shape physically and mentally. So what I would start to do is I filled my time with reading and writing and then going to the gym and going for walks. And I found that it's tough to fill an 8-hour time slot with really healthy habits. It's what I consider to be one of the greatest challenges of redefining yourself and going through a self-improvement period is like, you're going from doing something really bad all day to trying to fill 8 hours of time with exercise, books, meditation, like really good things. It's not really something that a lot of people want to do, and it's not something that's very easy. So that's really, in my opinion, the hardest part is just getting started. And I guess I hear that a lot too. The hardest part's the first step. The hardest part is admitting you have a problem and then figuring out what to do about it. So if I were to look back and give myself some advice a year ago today, when I was just, a couple months into this process trying to stop gambling, I would tell myself that I immediately needed to focus on finding something that I could be purposeful at. Gambling wasn't just spinning a wheel or playing cards. It was my identity. It was my purpose. My purpose during the day was to win. And without that, I felt purposeless. I felt hopeless, lost. But, along with that feeling comes the feeling of the freedom of knowing that you're not going to lose any more money. You're not going to make things worse. They can only really get better. So I would tell myself to be patient, but I would also tell myself to find that new purpose. And, for me, I've been lucky enough to find this purpose through making these videos and educating my audience on something that's really important to me, which is addiction recovery. But not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants to get in front of a camera and talk all day. So what can you do? Once you have done these habits during the day and, you've gone to the gym for an hour, you've read a book for an hour, say you even took up 4 hours of time, and now you just have this 4-hour time block where it's leisure time, it's free time. What I would immediately do is think back to the things that you started to do before you started gambling. For me, it was playing sports. And although I ruined those by making people bet me money in them, what I really enjoyed about them was, getting together with friends and, getting active and doing things like practicing, playing. For me, that was basketball, that was hockey, that was baseball, and that was also tennis or pickleball. So what I started to do immediately was get some friends together and start playing because, I wasted so much time doing things on my own, gambling on my own, that some of my friendships were actually, pushed to the side. Not that they were necessarily like hurt or ruined, but they were on the back burner of my mind. So I killed two birds with one stone, and I started filling some time up by playing games that I really enjoyed with people that I loved. And that's something that I just never did when I was gambling. So, maybe that doesn't fill up the other 4 hours though. Maybe you still got another 2-3 hours. Maybe you're bored for a bit. Maybe you watch some videos. Maybe you spend your time talking to friends, watching TV, watching movies. Anything that's not you gambling or you going deeper into your addiction is going to benefit you in the long run. So I think that during the periods of time where you don't have anything to do, let yourself be bored. You know, I know there was a study that said that people were more willing to take an electric shock than spend 15 minutes in their own head. But if you embrace it and you stay and you really think about things, get yourself through the day by passing your time being productive and, diving deeper, reflecting. At the end of the tunnel, there's going to be some light. That's another corny metaphor, I guess. But you can feel a lot better when you finally start putting some thought into maybe why you were gambling or why you feel so uncomfortable being bored. Do you feel uncomfortable being bored? A lot of people would say yes. I did for quite a while, and now I truly do enjoy, being on my own for a bit and having some time to think. It all comes with time, I guess, but basically anything that you have to be doing to not gamble is what you need to be doing. And that can be anything from, learning to code or running a marathon all the way to just flipping channels on the TV or, throwing a ball at the wall on the side of your house. Anything that isn't gambling is going to help you in the long run as your dopamine levels and your serotonin levels reset as you're coming off of your addiction in your brain. Why is it worth it to quit gambling? When you're gambling, that's all that matters. But you, even in that state, you know that there's more to life. There's your friends, your family, your dream, your career, your aspirations, places you wanted to travel, things you wanted to see, people you wanted to meet. There's so many things that you just forsake by dedicating all your time to gambling. And you can't really enjoy being in the moment. You can't really enjoy pursuing those things until you quit gambling because you're always going to be in the back of your mind thinking about the casino, thinking about the odds. You're never going to be able to be fully present. I wasn't present for a second between, I don't know, 2016 and 2021. I didn't really even have a moment of time where I was present except when I was gambling. And that's one of the things that it mentions in the Gamblers Anonymous pamphlet is we don't really feel like ourselves unless we're in action until you stop. Then you can start to reconnect with yourself. And that's such a beautiful experience. And that's really why I believe it's worth it to quit. You can pursue all the things you wanted to pursue before you started gambling. You can get your ambition back. You can feel good about your life again. And, people will say stupid shit like 99% of gamblers quit before they hit big. But, if you keep chasing that big win, even once you get it, you're going to be so deep in a hole that it's not going to matter. It's not going to get you out. It's never going to be enough. So I think that quitting gambling is perfect for living a life of contentment, of living a life of happiness, and of living a life where you can truly enjoy the present moment. Because if you're gambling, you're not there. That's just the reality of it. There was a guy who, he unfortunately passed away, but he was in my Gamblers Anonymous meeting, and he said something that would always stick with me. It's that when he first quit gambling, he had nothing else to do. And it was so bad that he would go out back and watch his grass grow. Can you imagine going outside every day and watching the grass grow? I guess you could also ask yourself, could you imagine losing tens of thousands of dollars every day on a stupid piece of plastic that's rolling on a table or on some cardboard paper that's getting flipped with faces on it? Everything can be absurd when you're looking for a reason to make it absurd. But that always stuck with me that he went outside and watched the grass grow because, it doesn't matter what you're doing as long as it's not gambling. You need to have the courage to quit. You need to have the perseverance to push through it. But you don't really need to have anything else specific that you need to be doing. As long as you're not gambling, you're on the right path. There's other negative things you could be doing, and I don't want to tell you to go and do them. But if you're trying to quit gambling, anything that isn't gambling is a step away from the most dangerous thing in your life. So be mindful about what you choose to do with your time, but just don't gamble. There's certain people that I've talked to that don't want to quit gambling. One is the sunk cost fallacy. They've spent so much time and effort with gambling. They've improved upon their blackjack strategy. They've improved upon, their poker game. They've improved upon their understanding of craps. And, they feel like they spent so much time and money and effort that they don't want to give it up. They got to chase and see if they can make something out of this time that they put into it. And what I think is you don't have to chase. You don't have to do all these things because you put time into it. If you really wanted to think about it that way, you put 12 years into going to school between K to 12, why are you not continuing to be an academic for the rest of your life, Sunk cost fallacy. You don't need to be doing things for the sake of doing them because you feel like you have been doing them for so long. I hope that made sense when it came out of my mouth, but you don't need to be gambling just because you feel like you know a lot about gambling. That is unnecessary. If you really wanted to, you could teach others about the reality of gambling odds like I've been doing. It's not glamorous, but it's a better use of the knowledge than going and losing money, in my opinion. Another thing that people tell themselves is yeah, this is who I am. I'm a gambler. I am the coolest. I bet the most. I'm a big shot. And that works until you lose, and then what do you have now? You're not a gambler. You don't have any money. How can you gamble without any money? So when you base your identity on something that's not a value within yourself, that's not something that can't change, and you base it on something that can change, like the amount of money you have, your looks, your house, your status, your job, all these things can be gone in a blink of an eye. And gambling is absolutely one of them, where if you define yourself as a gambler, the second that you can't gamble anymore, you're completely lost. So, that goes both ways. If you define yourself as a gambler and you stop gambling, where are you? And you have to start anew. But taking that route versus having to stop gambling because you ran out of money is a little bit better, as you can imagine. So realistically, you aren't who you were in the past anymore. You're not defined by your actions. You're not even defined by your thoughts. Your thoughts come and go, and they can change as you learn more as time progresses. They're not final. You are your values. You are what you do from this point forward. And the only way to live a truly happy life is to do something that you believe is meaningful. If you really, really think about it, is gambling meaningful? No. I couldn't find any meaning in it. And if you could, maybe you're thinking about it the wrong way. With this podcast, I'm seeking to tell my story, and I'm seeking to help other people understand their own story. If you believe that gambling has become your entire life, even if you're winning, even if you feel like you're on top of the world, if all you can think about is the bet, it's not going to end well. You need to get out of there immediately, and you need to start putting some time and effort into finding a purpose that changes your life and helps the lives of those around you. In the book Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, Jay talks about his experience living in a monastery as a monk when he was previously a business student in London. And what he had come to find is something that inspires me, and it's something that I'm basing my life on from this point forward. And it's that the perfect way to live is to find a balance of self-mastery and service to others. Self-mastery through discipline, through building habits, through making your life a better life to live. Service to others through passing it on to the next person. If I find a habit that works for me, I'm going to tell you, my audience, and I want you to be able to use it in your life. You don't have to have a YouTube channel to make a difference. And if you only talk to a few people, that's okay. Another quote that I really like is the Dalai Lama said that if you think that you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. You're never too small to make a difference. Get out there and change your life. Find something to do to occupy your time that isn't self-destructive like gambling is. Find a way to make your life better and find your purpose. You are not defined by your actions in the past. You are defined by what you do from this point forward. Don't give up. Unless we're talking about gambling, give that up. So thank you for listening to this episode of the One Day at a Time Gambling Addiction podcast. If you've gotten to this point, please hit that like and subscribe button, as it'll help me to share my message to others around the world. And as always, business as usual over here. Let's keep getting better together, one day at a time. Thank you.